Thank you, Leo. And next we have Yoav Oren from Similarweb. Similarweb is a leading company in business intelligence analytics. So we welcome Yoav to give a presentation about how to stay ahead of the curve in tech.
I'll ask her. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you, day out, for the opportunity. Excited to speak with you all. When I started, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and Itran and Bimin came to me and said to me, "Listen, we want you to speak about technology. We want you to speak about AI. We want you to touch marketing. We want you to speak about market intelligence. We want you to speak about mobile. And by the way, you have 15 minutes, so good luck. So we're going to try this today, okay? We're going to try to talk a bit about technology. We're going to try to talk about marketing. We're going to try to talk about mobile, market intelligence, and we're going to put this all in some kind of context, and I'm going to do my best to stay within the time frame as well. So without further ado, a bit about myself. Yoav, as he mentioned, I'm the chief of staff, and I head our China business over at Similarweb. I'll tell you all about Similarweb throughout the presentation. I'm a graduate of Columbia. I am a martial arts practitioner since pretty much as far back as I can remember, which brought me to China in the first place. So China, check, we're good. And I'm a very proud father of two of these cuties over here. Similarweb, for those of you who don't know, who doesn't? Who hasn't heard of Similarweb over here? Raise your hands. Really? We're going to talk afterwards, okay? Of course. So Similarweb is a market intelligence company, one of the world's leaders in market intelligence. We measure the entire digital world, and what we do is we give companies deep insights and the abilities to understand their markets they're operating in, the markets that they're looking to engage, their industries, and most importantly, we show them what their competitors' strategy is. By doing this, we empower companies to make smarter decisions, data-driven decisions in order to win in their markets. But before we talk all about Similarweb and what we do, we're going to talk a bit about technology today, okay? As you know, for those of you who don't know, you're sitting at the epicenter of innovation in Israel, right here, actually up this street. In Rothschild, I think there's probably more startups and more innovation per capita than pretty much anywhere else in the world, here in Tel Aviv. But if you go around the world, you'll be hearing similar stories. You'll be hearing technology about advancements in autonomous vehicles. You'll be hearing about the Internet of Things. You'll be hearing about artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence incorporated into pretty much every aspect of our lives. You'll be hearing about fleets of drones who are measuring the land, who are delivering packages. My friend Sam here is somewhere. You can hear more about the drone world from him, and many other things. What's interesting, though, is not what's happening technologically now, but how do we get here, and how does this differ between the different cultures? So these are my grandparents. They're lovely people. My grandfather is celebrating his 94th birthday next month. My grandmother just celebrated her 90th birthday in June. And I want to show you a bit about the technological advancement, their journey, what they've seen in their lifetime. So if you look at content, what they've experienced in content, they started off with this thing. It's called a radio. And this is how they would consume content via voice on radio. They moved on to consuming visual content on black and white TVs. Further to on-demand content on a flat screen. And today, yes, they actually have them on iPads, on iPhones. We're with them at all time. From a communication standpoint, they started off with a Pony Express. I don't actually know if they were around for this, but for argument's sake, let's say. They moved on to experiencing the United States Postal Service. They experienced the miracle of the internet and the ability to send and receive mail within seconds from their home desktop. And of course, to having a pocket-sized computer with them at all times and using it for any means of communication. And of course, the connection between them. So I use Skype here because I remember that I made the grave mistake of teaching my mother about Skype when I was in China actually for the first time in 2005. I told my mother about Skype. I said this is an amazing new technology. It enables us to communicate off our computers. And this was a mistake because I got an email a few days later and said to me, "Yo, I was waiting for you on Skype for 3 days. Where are you?" I get the same thing from my grandfather. To this day, we get on Skype and he has the camera pointed at his stomach. And he asks me how he looks. So this is all that they went through in their lifetime. Who here remembers when they received their first PC? Show of hands. Okay, good. There's going to be a quiz later. No. But it's amazing. I remember sitting back in the 80s in our living room with this thing, one of the first Macintosh, and playing, the brick breaking games. You guys remember that little paddle that shot balls and break bricks? This is my experience my first experience with technology. But elsewhere in the world, people went through an entirely different experience. Okay? In China, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the vast majority of people today experience technology not the same way that people in the West did, but they went directly to the tablets, directly to the smartphones. When you talk about a tech evolution, this is the tech evolution that people in the West went through. Basically from monkeys to the desktop until we stood again with our smartphones. But in China, it looked more like this. We skipped a whole part of that evolution. So how did this happen? Okay, I promise I'll talk a bit about China. Who here recognizes this city? Not you guys. Who knows? Which city? Show of hands. Someone brave in the audience. Anyone? People from China? Shenzhen. Okay. Shenzhen. Yep. Some 40 years ago, looked like that. And actually, this is 1970, but it looked like this pretty much into the beginning of the 80s as well. It basically transformed from a fishing village into today one of the richest cities in China and one of the most robust cities from a tech perspective as well. How did this happen? What happened in this period? Back in the 1970s and into the 80s, if you looked at the population in China, you had 90% of the Chinese population living in rural areas. Living in rural areas, think about it, 90% of the people were basically farmers in China. In a period of about 40 years, you know what the population in rural areas is today in China? It's about 50%. Think about that in context of having a country with about 1.4 billion people, what that means. It means you had the largest mass migration of people who for the first time in their lives are experiencing urbanization, are experiencing city life for the first time. And there's a gap, because technology is moving, and they need to adapt and close that gap, and they need to do it fast. And that's why you have that fast adaptation, that skipping of the aspects of the evolution. And this is why when you look at China today, and we're going to speak about the mobile why mobile is child's play. Okay, it's second nature. We talk about mobile payments. And this in China it's something that's not even thought of. I have a friend who's in China right now who said to me that I have not walked around 5 minutes, I'm just getting warmed up. I've been walking around for 2 weeks, I haven't carried my wallet or a credit card for 2 weeks. You have street vendors offering payments. My friend Harry over here from Solo said to me last night that there are homeless people on the street who accept WeChat payments. Picture that. You got someone on the street with a cardboard with a QR code on the cardboard, and you can actually make a donation using your mobile device. Meantime, in a galaxy far, far away, some of the biggest companies in the world, like Google and Apple, are still trying to scratch their heads and making ends meet and understanding how we can actually educate the market to start using these online payments, these mobile payments. We're not there yet. China is far, far more advanced than the West in the way that they're engaging using mobile devices. It's not just about the payment, as Harry and I discussed as well. In the West, if you want to book an hotel, you got to stop what you're doing, leave, and go to booking.com to book your hotel. You want to order a taxi, you got to stop what you're doing, you got to go to Uber. You want to book a flight. You want to order, cinema tickets. You want to make a payment between friends, you got to stop what you're doing and go to any different application. In China, you don't have to leave a single app. Okay? And the numbers are mind-boggling just because there's so much more opportunity. Today, only about a little over half the population is really engaged online. There are actually more people who are using WeChat than are actively engaged with the internet in any different way in China today. But the adoption is massive. What does this mean? This means that you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to the signals, because if you're not paying attention and you're not adapting your strategy according to the market that you're engaged with, you will miss the train. 20 years ago, this was the heart, the height of mobile technology. This belongs in a museum today. Today, we have conversations with our phones. Not on our phones, with our phones. A good friend of mine who celebrated his birthday last week said to me that his phone woke him up on his birthday, wished him a happy birthday, then asked him if it should read him the daily news. Amazing stuff. I love this quote. I keep saying Alexa when I need to say Siri. I just can't believe I live in a time where I'm getting my servant and robot names mixed up. Pretty much sums it all. But what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen in 10 years from now? How will the way that consumers engage with brands or companies or even with each other change? What's going to happen in 20 years from now? And how are you preparing for that? If you would have told me 20 years ago that The Simpsons will be able to predict this and this, I would be pretty blown away. Okay? You need to put things into context. If you look at your market and you're only looking at where you are right now and what you're doing, what is causing you to succeed right now, you're not looking at the full picture. If you would have asked people in New York in 2016 who will be the next president, they would have told you Hillary Clinton. If you would have asked BlackBerry back in the day, if people would adapt to touchscreens, they'd say, hell no. People are addicted to clicking away on those keyboards, and they would not adapt. But you need to pay attention, because this is not what reality looks like. This is what reality looks like. Okay. There are multiple players. There are multiple moving parts, and everyone is trying to get to be that number one. Everyone's trying to develop the right technologies to move forward, to advance. And unless you're not paying attention to what's happening around you, you will not be able to win your market. And how does this relate to marketing? Well, it's got everything to do with marketing. Because if you're crafting a marketing strategy and you're not putting it into context, you're not benchmarking against what other people are doing, what other companies are doing, you have no idea whether or not your marketing strategy is actually a success. What we do at Similarweb is we measure the digital world, at least the digital world in which consumers are today are engaged with companies and with brands. Okay? Tomorrow it might be different, but today people are mostly engaged with desktop and their mobile devices through apps and web. I have an example, we're going to run through it very fast. A small company called Huawei, you might have heard of them, came to us and they said, listen, we want to expand into new markets. Can you help us? We start by offering context. So we can start mapping out these major markets and showing them what's happening in their industry. Where are they losing market share? Where are they gaining it? Okay? Where are the areas of opportunity? And then dig deeper and show them from a marketing perspective, what are the channels that have been most successful in their industry and for their direct competitors. This helps you not only plan a strategy, it helps you allocate the right budget and prepare accordingly, because if you were going into Russia and to Germany, you would notice that paid search is significant traffic channel, as opposed to India. And if you were going to Russia and to India, you would know that affiliates is a significant channel in which people are engaged with consumer electronic brands. You need to know this, you need to listen to the signals. Same thing about the audience. You need to understand who is the audience, where is the audience, what is their gender, what are they looking at. You can only know where you're going if you know where you've been, and I would argue that only if you know where your competitors have been as well. So in order for you to prepare and plan for the future, you need to, first of all, learn about the past. You need to put it into context with the present. Understand what's happening with your specific industry, your specific market. You need to think outside of your box, and you need to listen to the signals around you so you can stay ahead of the curve and win in the future. Thank you.